Hi everyone, welcome to this interview by Core Recruitment. Thank you very much for joining us today. Core Recruitment is an international recruitment agency and we cover mid to senior level recruitment across exec and non-exec positions. Now, as part of this interview series, we're meeting lots of different business founders, interesting characters from the sectors we work in, and business leaders who are doing innovative things within their companies and their organizations. Now, I'm really pleased to say that we're meeting up with Paul Jackson today, who is the leader over at Searcys. Searcys very kindly hosted us at the Institute of Directors for our International Women's Day event a couple of years ago. And I think it was the first time that we were holding an International Women's Day event at that venue. And it was one of the biggest ones that they'd ever put on. And I still get clients today talking to me about how great the service was, how great the food was, how welcoming it was, and doing it in that historic, amazing location was absolutely incredible. They also managed the most incredible champagne bars and English sparkling, which I think Paul will probably want to talk about a little bit today as well. But I'm very pleased to have you here today. How are you, Paul?
I'm great, thank you. And yeah, thanks for the intro. Crikey, there's not a lot left for you to say, is there? Crikey. Thanks very much. Yeah, and the IOD was a great event. It was really great fun, actually. So it was great to host it. So yeah, super time.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, that's been a client of yours for a long time. You do really interesting stuff there, don't you?
Yeah. It's a superb venue. I mean, it's very diverse in what we do there across loads of planes. Beautiful little secret garden at the back, for example, but so much potential. Great location, really in the heart of London. So very popular. But yeah, no, great success for us for sure. Really good.
Excellent. Now, with Cersei's, I mean, because historically, I mean, it's been around for a long time and it's got great history, but I don't always think that people know like the breadth of what you guys cover. Can you just talk us through a little bit about the business and what you guys do?
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, firstly, it started in 1847, which is all a bit scary and quite a big responsibility for me, really, because I'm just taking on its little little journey, if you like, from everyone else's talent that have looked after it before. It started by John Searcy. He was a chocolatier, worked for the Duke and Duchess of Northumberland. So initially up at Alnwick Castle, then died down at Syon Park. It was in that time when there was a lot of society events, balls, etc. And he gained some skill in that sort of area, and the Duke and Duchess decided to set him up for business. So it started in 1847, has stayed true to its core, so delivering beautiful events, I think is probably the way to describe it, and has done that through two world wars, numerous pandemics, and loads of other activities that have taken place. And we still are very true to what he had started. Numerous ownership, of course, it's had numerous ownership as you would expect through that time. Latterly, so the WSH Group own Searcy's and have done for about 12 years now, and have spent a lot of time making sure that we stay true to what the business was about. Large amount of presences in London. We are at the Bath Pump Rooms as well, which we have had a long standing relationship down there as well, which is fantastic. So tends to be relationship with heritage sites, events, so head offices and institutions that got some beautiful spaces that want to host numerous events and activities, as well as member spaces. So we look after a lot of member spaces. We look after some cafes. As you mentioned, thank you very much, but we do have champagne bars and what we would call retail offers. So our collab with chefs, something that's been fantastic for us over the last few years. So the National Gallery and the National Portrait Gallery, for example, where we've got a phenomenal relationship with Giorgio Locatelli and Richard Caring. Most recently, we've just got a great collab with Alex Dilling from Cafe Royal, where we are at 22 Bishopsgate, so the tallest event space in Europe, if you like. So yeah, lots going on. We do have a couple of business and industry sites as well, where the client dining and the hospitality is absolutely core to what they do, and therefore we support them in the nature of what that looks like, and it helps develop their business because the hospitality is such a key part. So yeah, lots going on. Never a dull moment, but such fun. Wouldn't get up in the morning if I didn't love it, if you like, and such a great team around me to deliver all that.
Now, it's hard enough to kind of manage a homogenized hospitality product where you've got 20 of the same thing. but every single thing that you've got is different. Every client is completely different. Every venue has its own niches and nooks and crannies and all of that kind of stuff across the whole portfolio. In terms of your leadership team, where you are looking for people who can kind of like manage that breadth of kind of like, of operation, what do you look for and how do you keep them super nimble and super adaptive across all of the sites?
I think, well, the first thing to say is it's all hospitality. So whilst there is different styles of catering, there's a different ways of delivering things. It's still hospitality. It's still people to people. It's still making sure that that person's experience is just the best it can ever be in whatever guise that looks like. Of course, within the team, there are some nuances, some different skills that can support the businesses. So I've got a fantastic young lady that looks after the restaurants, for example, and has come from that background. I've got some other people that look after more of the event side of things, and probably we call it visitor attractions. But National Gallery and National Portrait Gallery need to have some understanding about how the visitor profile and how that works within our F&B solution. So they work really well with each other because actually people want to understand other people's style of business. There are some bits in there that can help other people as well. So it's not as separate as you think it is. And I will come back to, it is about the food and service. I think however that's delivered, cup of tea with a biscuit or a beautiful, beautiful lunch, dinner, a beautiful wedding, if you like, it's still the same. It's how the service is delivered and how the food is received, or those side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Now, in terms of, this is meant to be a positive interview, but I've got to ask, kind of like in terms of industry trends, in terms of consumer spending across all the different kind of like areas of the portfolio, what are you seeing? Is there any parts which are ahead or any parts which are behind, across the business?
Well, the first thing I would say is hospitality is so and has been so resilient from a positive side of things, and the challenges that we've seen over the last 5 years with regards to cost, with regards to labour, with regards to all of the things that we all know and have heard in the news or have had to deal with and cope with regards to the way that we run our business. But we are such a resilient industry. We come together as not just competitors, but we come together as an industry as well. We were at a lovely event last night, which was fantastic, with everyone just sort of celebrating. It was the Association of Catering Excellence. I mean, what a title, fantastic! But coming together and having a good old chat and just talking about all the challenges that sit out there. It's fair to say that for certainly from a Searcys point of view, when people come out, not as often, but when they do come out, they do want to celebrate. So then we're seeing fewer visits, but when they do want to come out, they want to probably upgrade to a bottle of champagne as opposed to it might have been a prosecco before, if you like. So we know that the experience is even more important than it used to be, and we have to be absolutely front and center in what that looks like. Experiences, I know that's talked about a lot, but experiences outside of the food and beverage side of things is now really important. So whilst you can come for a lovely meal or come from a lovely event, what else sits around the edges of that? Why should I come just because it's a dinner? What else is happening? Is there a talk happening? Is there an interactive cocktail bar? Is there a learning of champagne, for example? Are you coming to a ticketed event to talk about or understand greater knowledge around champagne? So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're seeing at the moment.
Excellent. Now, being part of WSH Group, who just seem to be juggernauting at the moment, kind of like in every direction, must be a really great kind of like advantage when it comes to resources and purchasing and all of that kind of stuff. How else does it help you to grow Searcys? And I guess kind of like, there seems to be, or we seem to notice that there seems to be a trend from a client perspective that they want to try and support smaller operators. Is there kind of advantages and disadvantages to being part of such a large group?
There's always the debate of big, small, big. I think that's been going on ever since I've been in the industry, if you like. Absolutely, there's a great advantage of being part of WSH outside of the obvious. there are other streams of catering that can help complement us, for example. So we have a beautiful brand called Fuel. They do street food pop-ups. They work closely with the founders of these beautiful food offers. They can come and help complement some of our hospitality and event activities. We're broken into the society event market. So Guards Polo, for example, is a really good example of where we would want to complement what our core is with regards to a beautiful, I don't know, burger pop-up or some lovely donuts or, all those sort of things that can help us. So that's fantastic. In some instances, in some of the large opportunities, there are different styles of catering that's required. So we would probably work alongside Benugos, for example, for some of the bigger opportunities where they are fantastic in that sort of cafe, but also fast-paced restaurant where we would come along and probably deliver something on that more qualitative sort of afternoon tea dining experience, if you like. So yeah, I mean, it's for us, it's a great positive, but equally interestingly, still seen as a small operator. It's interesting actually because we're just seen as Searcys in the team that we do. And we just happen to have as you say, the security of a large organisation that sits behind us, but it is about Searcy's front and centre.
Absolutely. I can imagine if Searcy's were going to do donuts, they must be the best donuts in the world, right?
Absolutely. Can you imagine? Crikey. Yeah. Very Moorish, very dangerous as well, actually, at the same time.
Can imagine gold encrusted, kind of like, something like that. Anyway, don't want to give you ideas, but anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
So, Paul, from dealing with kind of like lots of your kind of like, team in terms of like, not only recruitment, but organizing the events, you obviously kind of like, hosted us for one of our LGBTQI events at the Gherkin kind of like a little while back. Everybody we encountered is just so bought in. They're such great brand ambassadors for Searcys. How do you find these people? How do you retain these people? And what are you doing to support them, I guess, from a wellness perspective?
From my point of view, it starts from the top. It always starts from the top, I think. And being with the teams in the business. I know we've struggled to get together ourselves to have this interview, but that's around not needing to be in the office. It's needing to be in amongst the business, alongside the teams, speaking to them and understanding actually some of the challenges and the frustrations they have. Um, you know, well-being is such a broad challenge and can be challenging subject, and it's making sure that there is a voice for it as well, and that the business supports it in whichever way it can. There are so many different streams to it. Home life and work morph into each other so much more nowadays, but also the importance that people do need to have a time to switch off. Technology scares me a little bit, if I'm dreadfully honest. I mean, it may be an age thing, but you can't escape from work at all 24/7. And I know you and I, text at crazy times, but you have to be considerate as a leader with regards to what you're doing. So when are you emailing? When do you switch off? When can you hold back? Giving people the opportunity to be a bit more flexible at work, has become a norm, and actually fantastic. It's really, I think it's brilliant because actually it's making sure that people appreciate that you are empowering them to do a role. It doesn't matter actually nowadays because technology helps you to say where that happens, how it takes place. Yes, of course, we're in hospitality, and yes, of course, there are events to be delivered, but some of the admin activity that takes place, as long as it's being done, let's not be so worried about where that is. And if it helps support somebody at home because they need to pick up the little ones or they need to go to the doctors or those sort of things, fantastic. I think that's important that we recognise that for sure.
Absolutely. That sounds very well supported. Now, from a London events perspective, the market has never felt more competitive than it feels right now. And there seems to be this real push towards live experiences, those Instagram moments, and trying to kind of like create that when people are spending their money. Can you give us some examples of how you're kind of combating that with these historic venues with your clients?
You must have listened to me though, because everything I talk about is the Instagram moment. I think it's just so important, isn't it? You can't spend 10 seconds without looking around. Someone's got their camera out because they want to take a picture, and therefore the importance of making sure that what our offer looks like is absolutely on point, because within 30 seconds it can be across so many different platforms, if you like. I mean, food stations and the interaction with regards to bringing the kitchen into the event for us has seen great growth. Food stations have been around for a long time, but actually getting the chefs out, looking at what products they're using. So experience as well as sustainability, ESG is talked about, but where does the product come from? What is the story that sits behind it? People are so much more vested in that nowadays, and so much more because they actually want to see the evidence of it as well. So the data that sits behind it is really important. So how does the data get delivered when you're doing an event? How are we presenting that in our menus? What is the information that the team know and they can talk about? I mean, you talked about the English sparkling wine, for example. We've got our own label, English sparkling wine. Fantastic support from a vineyard called Greyfriars. They are so supportive with regards to how they will come and do some talks at events, talk about their story, where did it come from. Everyone wants to know the story about where did the product come from, how did it start, how does it get to bottle, how is it maintained, how many bottles do they produce, just all of the lovely stories that we all dream of have been part of, if you like. We have got a Champagne Rolls Royce, for example. So, there are crazy little experiences that can come out that just capture the eye and people love to see, if you like. And of course our ticketed events, which I know you're very fond of, but the champagne talks that we deliver alongside, we do some champagne and art. So there's been some great success at National Portrait Gallery with regards to the champagne and art talks, etc. as well. So yeah, no, fantastic.
Of course, you've got a Champagne Rolls Royce, Paul. Of course, you have a Champagne
Had to
Rolls Royce.
had to get that in. Sorry about that.
I
Yeah.
mean, exactly. I mean, why would you not ever have a Champagne Rolls Royce? I mean, that's the big question, right? Now,
Yeah.
to wrap things up and kind of the final question, we've known each other for a long time, and you've always got such a good, pragmatic view about business, but you're also not scared of trying new things. And I'm sure, a massive proportion of them do really well. I'm sure maybe some of them don't do so well. And it's important that we talk about kind of all the successes, but also, I guess, some of the challenges as well. Could you just give us kind of one or two things that maybe you've tried, which, don't want to use the word failure, but things that maybe haven't gone entirely according to plan and maybe what you've learned from it?
It's interesting you talk about this because I talk to the team about this. It's really important that people make mistakes. It's an odd thing to say, but it's so important people make mistakes because it's around the learning that sits around that. Okay, yes, make the same mistake 3 or 4 times. That's a different matter, but making mistakes and why did that happen and spending the time to think about why did the outcome not come to the place it needed to be, if you like. We've opened a couple of places and had the great dream that they were going to be fantastic. For example, we've most recently had a restaurant that we opened up. We were all behind it, loved it to bits, really wanted to make it a success through an eye-watering amount of effort into marketing, social media, digital platforms, and it just wasn't to be. And actually, sometimes you've got to know when to stop. You've got to know when to say, we gave it a great shot, but it's not going to be. Let's reshape it. Let's point it into a different direction. What else can it be? And those things happen. It's not failure. It's just you tried something. So what else can we do? Some of the events have been a bit bumpy in my time. Been around the block a long time, so I've got a lot of battle scars, if you like. But the planning of big events. So I talk about the society events, but they can be for 2, 3, 8,000 people. If you're not planning for that event 3 or 4 months prior, and if you're not ready on the day, it will not work. It will not succeed. It's too late on the day, as they say. And just making sure that the effort and the planning is done at the right time. Because if not, it will be a very challenging event, for example. But yeah, I mean, mistakes happen, and that's fine. I think we just have to spend the time in looking at why and making sure that we can evolve and change and sort of point in a different direction when you need to.
Absolutely. Well, I really enjoyed the chat. Thank you so much for hopping on and telling us a little bit more about Searcys and all the interesting stuff that you guys are kind of doing there as well. Can't wait to see those donuts in the future, though, and the Champagne Rolls Royce, maybe all at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah. Great to see you, yeah.